He has a 1-1 count. That one's struck high. Left side. That one's going. That's out of here off the ropes. You have got to be kidding me. Fireworks. Here you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and welcome all. We got a lot of fun here in store for you today as we're gonna go through some of we're gonna talk about some sleeper picks coming on up here. But first and foremost here, I am Andrew Brown. Alongside me and joining me very shortly will be none other than Caden Nissen, as he will be helping me, and we get the chance to go through some sleeper picks, teams that you really should keep an eye on that may not have broken through just yet, but we're going to get you, again, some names to talk about. But first and foremost, it is going to be an absolute rocking week that we are kicking off a lot of our coverage with, and you're going to have a lot of fun here. And it is simply can't miss content in any way you shape it, any way you form it. Monday, we got preseason rankings, preseason Mr. IAbaseball watch list, which is going to be really fun. Of course, Tuesday, conference previews kick off, as well as notable returners, breakout candidates for every team. And then if you thought that was it, no, we got Wednesday and Thursday rolling here for you. Senior superstars, junior juggernauts, and, of course, returning pitching cheat sheets that will get you really a step ahead, make you feel like you're in the weeds with it all. And, of course, Thursday, you got sophomore standouts, freshman phenoms, and, of course, returning lineups. And, again, make sure to catch all of this on rockfin.com/IAbaseball, and you'll be able to catch up on, again, a lot of that great content and more. Plus, you get to support what we do in helping to highlight the players, coaches, and even umpires that make this great game possible. But again, Andrew Brown here, and joining me alongside my partner in crime, Cade Nissen, joining on the hotline. And Cade, this is one of our first videos of the year. I mean, I'm floored that we're finally here.
Yeah, I feel like we've kind of put the videos aside a little bit, and we've been grinding on that content week. It's really fun seeing it all come together. I think we got a great mix of free content as well as stuff for our subscribers, which is like kind of a big point of emphasis for us this offseason. And I mean, you just read it all. I mean, we got every single conference previewed. We have returners and breakout stars for every single team in the state of Iowa. We're not missing one. Every single team, like, we got it. Like, it's a ton of content. It's gonna be a ton of fun, and it just points to high school baseball being here. I mean, Monday practice. Let's go. I mean, we're here. We're gonna be 2 weeks away from opening day, and I mean, we all know how fast the season goes once that gets going. So we're just gonna do what we can to enjoy it, and I mean, like we always do, Andrew, just put the spotlight on Iowa high school baseball as bright as possible, because these kids deserve it, and there's a lot of good baseball in the state this summer, and picking sleeper teams was not fun.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's the challenging part of it. I absolutely love it, and it just kind of goes to show that there's a lot of talent in here, and a lot of talent that was. So it's really fun when we get a lot of guys coming back and checking out and digging deep into the archives too. That's really a fun thing for us to do. But for right now, it's time for us to dive into sleepers. We go through each class, and we go through one, maybe two, or even three sleepers per class that maybe you haven't had your eye on, but you really should coming on up. So, you know what, Kate, we did this dance back and forth quite a lot last year. But where do we end up starting with this shindig? It's either 1A or 4A here.
I tell you what, I'm very confident in my 1A sleeper. I kind of would like to start with 1A.
Let's do it.
I guess I got a few of teams I kind of wanted to shout out, and then I'm going to kind of break down one. But a few teams that stick out, and I guess, Andrew, we're doing this not really knowing the preseason rankings. Our rankers are given to us finalized right now, so some of these teams could be ranked pretty high, but these are teams that I think are kind of slept on. No one's really talking about. The two teams that kind of come to mind first are Alta Aurelia and Woodbine. I think
Mm-hmm.
Alta is going to get a pretty high nod in the preseason rankings. Woodbine might kind of crack it. I mean, this team was 22-4 last year, lost to Remsen in the postseason by 1 run. This is a scrappy team that returns a lot. I really, really like Woodbine, but I do think they could kind of sneak in on the back end of those rankings. But the sleeper team that I'm really excited to follow this year is a team that went about 500 last year, but they returned everybody, and this team was fun, and it's Iowa Valley. I'm
Right.
very high on this team. I like Iowa Valley a lot. Fell in the postseason in the second round to Wapsie Valley, and I mean, there's just a ton of guys back, and it's a lot of youth. Mason
Yeah.
Hoyt was a freshman, led this team in a lot of offensive categories. Caleb Hack's back for his senior year, and he's the guy on the mound too. So they're returning basically all their innings. They're losing an inning in 2/3, but all the innings are back on a team that pitched to an ERA below 4, a WHIP about a run and a half or a 1.5 per inning. I really like the pitching staff, and I think the
Yep.
lineup is just so young. There's a lot of youth. This was a team led by a lot of freshmen last year, and those guys are all back. And they got those few juniors on the team last year that were heavy contributors that will now be seniors. So I love when you kind of have that contrast of leadership in the senior end, but you still have a lot of youth in that lineup. And I'm really excited to see what Iowa Valley does. Again, this team could maybe crack the 1A preseason rankings. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
they're going to be there, but I am excited to see this team, and I'd be willing to bet we're going to see them in the polls at least at some point throughout the year, because this is going to be a fun team.
No doubt. No doubt. And you know what? You kind of we had this happen a lot last year. You kind of took a little thunder away, but hey, it's all right.
Oh no!
I'll agree with you. I have a little difference here, but I agree with Alta
Yeah.
Aurelia in large part. You know, Coach Burkhart has done a lot of great things, and you think about it. They had Kyle Dupick, who's now the pitching coach at Wartburg for several years, and he's installed a lot of great pitching. Practices, different things to go into that program. And so they, I think, are ahead of a lot of 1A programs in terms of where they're at pitching wise, regardless of guys that they have cycled through or graduated. So I agree with you on that. I'll also add in the fact that this is a team that had 200 stolen bases last year. So it does go to show that this is a team not only can set you down defensively, but can cause havoc when it matters the most onto the base pass. So for me, that kind of stands out. Is I really like that. But another team that I'm really excited for, and I think can do it again this year, is Bedford. You know, a team that had not over the last 15 or so years touched up a 20-win season. Last year, 20 and 11 overall with their record. And you know what? They bring quite a bit of guys back. Ashton Alley is a guy that I really am pretty high on. He's a guy that I think you'll see come through at. He's not the flashiest, but man, he can do a whole lot. And of course, Brody King is the returning total base leader for that squad. He's a guy that really got to keep an eye out on, especially defensively. But the guy I'm really most excited for is Clement Only, the junior who posted 82 strikeouts last year. You know, that ERA a little inflated, but you know what I think about ERA. I don't really rely on that a ton. In the end, he put in the work over 67 innings, a WHIP of 1.29. The guy went out there and did what he could. He saw the best every time he went out to pitch. So in the end, I like what this team is capable of doing. And you know what? In the conference, I think they have a good shot. And, you know, again, make sure to check out those conference previews when they come, because honestly, I think Bedford's going to be one that not only makes waves within the conference, but makes waves at the next level as well. I think that they could be a real class surprise in 2025.
Yeah, Andrew, it's pretty rare that you get a class surprise that made the state tournament last year. I mean, people kind of forget Bedford. That was a
Yeah,
quarterfinalist team, and they took Akron Westfield to the wire.
they
And
did a
here you
great
are.
job.
I mean, people are going to be sleeping on Bedford again. But I mean, I guess that kind of transitions into my 2A team. I'm going to try and not steal your 2A teams. But when you talk about Bedford, your Bedford pick knocked out my 2A, one of my 2A sleeper teams in the postseason and 1A last year.
Oh,
And that's Tri Center. Now,
yeah.
well, I was going through the conference previews and I was looking at Tri Center, and I really liked what they had coming back. I liked them in 1A. I saw the IHSA classifications. I saw they went up to 2A, and I still like them at 2A. I think that just points to how much they bring back, and how I really like what they're returning. They lose their top innings guy,
Yeah.
but they return Lincoln Thomas, who had a WHIP below 1 last year
Ooh.
through his 42 innings, and they return another 40 plus innings guy in Cale Witt, who is just going to be a junior. And they got a bunch of guys around them ready to step up. I mean, their top innings guy is the only pitcher they lose from last year, so everybody else is back and ready to contribute. And I mean, the lineup: Cale Witt was their top total base guy. Carter Kunze's back. I mean, we know what he did on the football field. He put on a show. Ready to see him on the baseball diamond. AJ Harder, another football guy, ready to step up. I mean, this team's returning 7, 8 starters are guys that are ready to produce at a high level. So Tri Center was the first team that really stuck out to me. My other one, as I tab over to Bound, my other one was Central Lee.
Ooh.
And Central Lee was a team that took Pleasantville to the wire in the second round of their postseason game. They did fall to Pleasantville, but we know what that team's about. But Central Lee is another team that just returns a ton. I mean, basically everything. And they're going to be led by an underclassman in Blake Davis, who really performed at a high level as a freshman last year. They got some seniors, though, that are back and ready to be that kind of leadership, and Hunter Edlin and company. But it's a team that returns a lot of their hits. I mean, obviously, Andrew, that's what we're looking for in
Yep.
this preseason stuff, is just kind of who brings back a lot and who competed at a high level last year. And Central Lee, I mean, team ERA below 2.5. I know you don't weigh ERA too effectively, but I mean, when you're pitching an ERA 2.5, that speaks to your pitchers and that speaks to the defense that you got behind you, and they return a lot of that. So Central Lee and Tri Center are kind of my 2A teams. I hope I didn't steal your thunder there.
Oh, you know what? This time you didn't. Although I completely agree with you, everything you said, I agree 100%. In the end, I this is one where I had to just stop at one point because I started to get to too many teams, and I'm only going to mention a couple of them here. But one of the teams you mentioned reclassification of some of the teams, and
Mm,
I think for me that puts certain teams in a different light just because if you're in a new class, you're untested in that class necessarily. Depending on where you went, Grandview Christian team in 1A for last year that had two of the top 10 stolen base earners in the state. Tate Moulton is a guy that is going to really give a lot of teams a lot of heck. And I say that only because, you know what, in this game, especially high school ball, one little error and a guy like Moulton can go around the base paths in just a single. And then that piles up after a while. So, and the fact that they got two of them, with Jordan also being able to, again, just wreak havoc on the base pass. Grandview Christian, definitely one of those teams that I thought could have gone a lot further than they did. In the end, they kind of ran into a buzzsaw, but ultimately, I think they're a team that I think you have to look at right now, and you have to look at pretty seriously. I almost thought about, man, are they technically a sleeper? But again, going up a class, you just you don't play as much 2A when you're a 1A team all the time. Sometimes you do, but again, they're a team that I think you really should take a look at. And then another team is one of the squads that we got to see in St. Louis, you and I, and that's Wilton. This is a team
mhm.
that just brings back a lot. 7 out of 10 total base earners, including 70% of the strikeouts thrown. And they were consistent, one of the more consistent teams on the mound and with the bat. So honestly, this is a team that can kind of run the table. I think conference slate is going to be. It's always a challenge, let's be honest, but I think they're going to they're overcome that. And this is a team that I honestly can see as making a push. I mean, this is historically Wilton has been a good program. I think they're going to continue what they have done in recent years and get back to it. I think Wilton ends up being a team that, I mean, maybe not now anybody's sleeping on, but I think at the start of the season they might. And then wrapping up, I think one of the teams that, I'm going to give shout outs to Northeast and Ridgeview, but Marquette Catholic is a team that I teetered on. I didn't know if this was necessarily a sleeper in the grand scheme of things, just with how well they have done. But they return basically most, if not all, of their core, including 3 pitchers with 45 strikeouts or more. They're not Algona's with 350 plus, but they do still have enough that in 2A you got enough guys that have that behind them, that have enough gas behind them. I think there's enough for them to really go the distance here. So Marquette Catholic is another team to watch, and that's like kind of rounds out what I had to limit my 2A sleepers to.
Yeah, 1A and 2A are hard because there are
Yeah,
so many teams. Like there are a ton of
yeah,
1A and 2A teams. So I feel your pain there, but I think that's the good thing that we've had to do with all these conference previews and write-ups is that we've learned a lot about these teams that maybe we
yeah.
don't get to go see all the time. So that's been fun. But 3A, you talk about teams returning duos of 50 plus innings. Obviously, like you said, no one's like Algona returning 3 of them. But a couple of my 3A teams each returned 2 guys with 50 plus innings, similar to yours. Starting with
Mhm.
Knoxville. And you talk about 1-2 punches that kind of go underrated. Kyler Gifford and Lincoln Norris are 2 guys that I would not want to face. Both of those
No,
guys had whips below 1 last year. Uh, just kind of looking for the offense to be more consistent. And obviously, I mean, they returned a ton of their lineup, and a lot of their lineup was super youthful last year, which all points to good signs. Just more at bats and more eyes on pitches and getting used to varsity level pitching. So I'm looking for their offense to take a step up. They hit
yep,
274 as a team last year. I bet that clip goes up a couple notches, and they're going to be forced in that conference with Sheraton. Obviously, I mean those two are going to be battling it out. My other team that I had with guys returning a ton of innings is Sergeant Bluff Luton.
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if that one was on your list, Andrew. I feel like that might be a popular one because this team was 1 run away from the state tournament last year. I mean, they lost to Heelan in just a thriller. I kind of remember following that one on that night of sub-state. But this is another team. They've got 3 seniors coming back with 49, 53, and 58 innings. So Algona might return 3 guys with 50 plus, but I mean, they're right there, and they return
yeah,
literally everybody in all their innings, and their staff was really solid last year. And I mean, the lineup's the same way. Tanner Cleany is coming back in 437, and he's going to be looking to lead that way. But this is going to be an old team in Sergeant Bluff Luton, a lot of seniors on that team, which points to good signs. And they're going to be gunning for it with the state tournament being a lot closer to them than it usually is. So they're going to be looking to get there. I also do want to shout out Centerville. I like them as a 2A sleeper.
hmm
And I saw they're going up a class. They just were on the edge of the classifications for going up to class 3A. Still like Centerville. I think they bring back a lot. Abram DeSena, as an 8th grader last year, just tore the cover off the ball. Excited to see
yeah,
him perform. And not only him, but they've returned a lot. Carasio's back with the most innings on that team. So that's another team that returns a lot. It'll be interesting to see how they fare in 3A when it comes to postseason. But not a fun team to match up with. That's going to be a team that knows the game pretty well and has played a lot of ball together.
yeah. And man, that's going to take them so far, like you mentioned. And again, both the squads you mentioned, the fact that they're hitting, I think organically, they got guys that are again experienced at the right time, and I think in the end that can take you very far. And I will agree. Yes, Sergeant Bluff Luton was on the list, and simply for your reasons, for the reasons you put there. This is a squad that has been there before. These guys, again, a lot of these guys are searching for that state tournament, right? But they were so close. And, in the end, they were one of the teams that put up one of the biggest fights against Heelan, even if you add in some of the state tournament games that the Crusaders had. So, again, you bring back so much, and I think this is going to be a team that goes very, very far. But, for me, not only did I have that, but I also had a team that I think is again may not be the flashiest, and I've talked about them a couple years, but Mount Vernon is a team that I think you gotta keep an eye on because they continually take down big teams late in the season. They went toe to toe with Wallert, and they nearly knocked Wallert off in the postseason route. So that was quite a battle for them. But this is a team that had a better year in 2024 than the 5 years prior, and yet those years, they almost went to state as well. They bring back out of the Wamak East 87% of their total base earners, and so their offense basically comes back for the most part. They don't lose a single hurler in the grand scheme of things, and so and in the end, they're going to be led by Colin Bentley, who has been starting varsity for quite some time. So as he gets into his senior year, he's more than just a senior that just happened to get into his fourth year. He's a guy that's been around and knows varsity ball, and he's been doing that. He's a guy that's going to add another 50 plus total bases to his mark, and he's a guy that has been 15 or so walks every year. He's going to add to that. So patience right off the bat, and then of course you go down. You don't lose a senior for the next five guys until you get to that senior in terms of total bases. So Mount Vernon is a team that last year we saw take down Western Dubuque late, and again this is a program that really just can't count out in any way, shape, or form. But as we go through it, I love the shout out look. I got to give a shout out to Nevada. Two guys that we see continually on some of the returning top lists are Drew Hinson and Jackson Burlage. I mean, those guys are continual guys that we see up there. Hinson, I think, is really coming into his own. Last year, we saw a lot of good things, obviously, and then Burlage was kind of been one of the leaders there. And those are two top-notch guys, let alone top-notch players. So, I think Nevada is close. They haven't had a winning season in necessarily roughly 10 years, but, I love the coaching staff that they have going on there. When we got to meet them last year doing our preseason tour, phenomenal people, and they're in the right direction. I could see them getting more than just a 500 season here as well. But last one here is I got to go ahead. Not only Carlisle and Makokata are some shout outs to me, but I got to give love to Sadell. Even though they did lose some key offensive pieces, you know what? They still bring back probably arguably one of the best pitching duos out there in the state right now. And Adam Mine is kind of the guy that leads that charge here, but Hicks is electric in every form. I mean, those two guys, honestly, you can go two guys deep and go very far in the season and even the postseason with guys like that. And they bring just enough offense back that gives it that you can stay in games later on. But again, Sadell was one of just 7 teams in 3A to have over 400 total bases, under 200 strikeouts offensively. And if they come even remotely close to that, Cade, with the pitching that they have, it's just going to amplify things even more. And so I think the Heart of Iowa, they'll get through that schedule pretty well. And I think ultimately this is a team that outside looking in for a lot of the team rankings last year, but I suspect that they're going to be a team that bursts through and remains for several weeks on end in 2025. So again, watch out for the Eagles. I think that they're going to be a very big team this year.
I would say, as you were talking about Sadell, I was like just thinking back to last year's rankings. I'm like, man, it felt like one week they're an honorable mention, then they slipped in at 16, and then they're honorable mention for a few more weeks. But no, I think you're right. I mean, if that pitching plays anywhere near it did last year, there's no doubt that they can be a steady staple inside the top 16. Heart of Iowa is not going to be fun, especially with Nevada, like you said. They're going to be good. I was looking at the Heart of Iowa the other day, and man, they return a lot, and they're going to be a scrappy ball club. But yeah, I mean, I talk about 1A and 2A being hard to pick sleepers. 3A is just as hard.
Seems like it.
But if you're ready for 4A, I am. I don't know how much of a sleeper my first team is, but I went with Linmar. And that's just because the youth they have offensively and how much guys they have back. This is a team that was successful last year in a really tough conference in the MVC. Sarsfield and Schmidt are guys that people will talk about with sophomores coming back that were, really impressive on the 4A scene. But they've got some seniors ready to support them as well, and Mazinski and Cruz. The pitching is where some questions remain, but they still bring back tons of guys that brought valuable innings last year. They do lose their top 3 innings, though all those guys depart from graduation. But Linmar, looks like a fun team, and it's going to be a 4A team on my radar at least to start the season. My other one I'm rolling with a CIML team. I'm rolling with Valley. They
Yeah.
finished at the bottom of the CIML, but man, I tell you what, as a guy who has tweet notifications on for a lot of these, spring circuit, whatever PBR perfect game, a lot of Valley guys that seem to be popping up, and Ramich and oh gosh, who am I thinking of for the other one? Stedman.
Yep,
He's been
Stedman.
popping a lot. They return a lot of their lineup, a good core of their lineup. They kind of struggle a little bit offensively, hit 261 as a team. Another team that I'm expecting that number to go up. And I think this team can be a lot more competitive in the CIML. Obviously, we know what difficulty that brings on a nightly basis, but I think they've got some youthful arms that are ready to go out and compete nightly in the
Yes.
toughest conference in Iowa. So curious what you have here for 4A, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Valley was on the radar with me as well, but for again for the exact reasons. I think they've been waiting in the wings. It's been close. It's a team that ultimately, as they put together some really good games over the past couple of seasons, and it just unfortunately it just hasn't quite got there. I think it's more a testament to the conference than to the inability to win or anything like that for Valley. I mean, the coaching staff is obviously legendary, so there's a lot to like about where Valley stands. But for me, I really last year one of the teams that I looked at 4A and went, man, this team keeps going a bit above expectations, and is that's Cedar Rapids Prairie. Now, I mean, a couple years ago, 2 3 years, is when you had Prairie with basically excuse me, basically they had a ton of guys that had so much experience in the AAU circuit. And that is the same squad that we had, if you don't remember, about a couple years ago in the American Legion All-Star. Again, that was basically you had Cedar Rapids Prairie in the American Legion All-Star Series, again nationally taking on other American Legion teams. And so it was a group that had been together, a core group that had just played and gone through every conceivable situation that baseball can throw at them. So we saw that again several years ago. We saw it when they made deep postseason runs, and then last year we saw, hey, some of those guys are no longer here, and so you just kind of got to refresh and go over the last couple years. But this year, man, you go and you have 5 6 actually offensively, you don't get to a senior until you're over 10 guys deep. And when we look at total base earners, I mean, you're getting a senior that just didn't play a whole lot of games. So ultimately you get the vast majority, near over 90+% of your offense back. Where there is a little bit of concern comes for in the pitching, where they did lose a bunch of guys, including 4 out of the top 5 strikeout earners. Although Woodhouse comes back after 56 Ks, he had a 2.21 ERA, and I agree with the sentiment that ERA does still tell a story. Teams only hit 188 off of him, so he's a guy that you can spur around, but this is also an offense that I feel like can go toe to toe if it gets into a shooting match, right? I think that they can go the distance with that, and I think that they'll have Coach Nelson always has guys ready to go on the mound, so I'm not necessarily worried about the lack of experience there. They got a ton of guys ready and reared to go. So 4A, Cedar Rapids Prairie being one of those teams for me. But then also a team that I had a lot of hopes for last year, I thought could make it. And, they lose a bit this year, but, Bettendorf. I'm really high on Wrigley Mathis. I got to see him in the PBR spring leagues, and the guy just finds barrels, man. He meets the ball every time. He's got good speed. He just knows how to play the game, and he's a guy again that basically plays year round, and so he's going to walk into the season with a ton of mid season ready performances under his belt. So again, I feel like Bettendorf can kind of come out there. I think last year was, underwhelming only from the standpoint that I thought that they could go a little bit further than they did. But ultimately, I think Bettendorf's going to be a player in the 4A game this year.
Whew.
Oh, I know. In the end, even 4A was locked and loaded. It's just
Oh,
whatever you classify as sleepers, that changes here and there. But certainly,
yeah.
it's always fun because all these teams certainly come into the season with a little bit to prove. And,
Yeah.
they not all of them have targets on their back. And so I think that in the end, I really, it's going to be fun because, again, Cade, we do these this early in the season. Before the season starts, we do that as kind of a fun test, right? And in the end, are we going to get half of them right, half wrong? Yeah, there's a good chance. But there's a good chance that we might get all of them wrong. But in the end, we know that Iowa high school baseball is going to give it all, and it's going to give us a lot of fun this 2025 season.
No, you're right. And I mean, like you said, I mean, you can qualify sleepers as whatever you want it to be. I mean, 4
Yeah,
teams only left 2024 happy when you think about it. So I
yeah,
mean, everyone's out there to prove something, and even the state champs are back, and they probably think they're slept on in some sense. We're going to see some preseason champs ranked, lower inside the top 10 in these preseason rankings, and now they're going to have something to prove. So
yeah,
it's going to be a ton of fun. There's storylines wherever you put it, and I think our job is to get those stories out there as much as possible. I mean, we just went over all 4 classes, and there's a lot of teams we missed. So
yeah.
no, that was a ton of fun, and hopefully we can get some of them right.
Yeah, and anybody out there listening, give us your thoughts too, man.
Yeah,
We always want, we always want that input, and certainly if you're seeing something, we want to hear about it. But man, Cade, again, already the time has flown by, and I can't wait to get to more of these. But again, ladies and gentlemen, catch up. Again, I will post it up there. Catch up, Rockfin, and all that we've got coming on up here. Again, tons of content that helps you get prepped for the season. So make sure to check that out. But until next time, Kate, it's been good. Can't wait to get to the next one.
absolutely. See ya.